you doing, my friends? Excuse me. We know from the Bible that relationships are important. You know that, right? You've heard that kind of thing. Like, for example, Jesus told us that the greatest commandment, hey, Jesus, what's the most important? He said this, I'm paraphrasing, but basically he answered the question like this: love God and love others. Most important. In other words, what he's talking about there is relationships, the importance of relationships, our relationship with God, our relationship with others. God considers relationships to be valuable and important. He really does. They're a big deal. Um, think about it this way: we are created to be social beings. Like we were created, we didn't make ourselves, we're created beings. We were created by God to be in community with others. Now, I know, some people just by their personality and their temperament are more inclined towards friendships and relationships than others. Some of us aren't as inclined. I know. Some of us are more introverted. Some of us are just, it's how we're wired up. We're more extroverted. I know. But even if you acknowledge those realities, it's still fair to say relationships are good. They're a positive thing, and from the standpoint of the Bible, they are an important. Just checking to see here. Yeah, they're an important part of life. There's a passage. It's in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 4, verses 9 and 10, and it's very simple. It's a very simple passage, but it's correct. It gives this correct bit of advice, and it has to do with the importance of having friends and sort of like having support and looking out for each other. Here, I've got a Bible right over here. Let me read this passage to you. This is, again, Ecclesiastes chapter 4. It says, two people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. They're just very basic. Verse 10, it goes on. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Again, just sort of simple and basic, but it helps us understand friendships, the importance of relationships, being in community. This is a good thing, according to the Bible. And we're also understanding, no surprise here, we're understanding that this old wisdom in the Bible, it's old, but it's still relevant, always relevant. But this old wisdom is also correct based on current scientific research. Yeah. Yes, really. Yeah. I was watching a talk recently. It was a speech that was given by a woman named Susan Pinker. She's a psychologist and an author, and she's a science columnist for the Wall Street Journal. And one of her areas that she has studied is something called longevity. You ever hear of this? Longevity. It's basically, it studies long life, like how do people live long lives? Why do people live long lives? What are the factors involved in people who do live long lives? So Susan studies this. In this talk, Susan referred to research that's been done by another woman, a researcher named Julianne Holt Lundstad. And Julianne did, I think it was actually several studies, but she looked at a large group of people. I forgot what she said. I think like tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, a large group over a pretty long period of time. And she recorded all these different aspects of their life, their lifestyle, things that you think would probably be relevant, like their marital status and things like diet and exercise. Did they do that? How much of it did they do? Whether they smoked or drank. Again, these things that you think would probably be factors. How often they went to the doctor. Recorded all these different aspects of their lives. And what she found in her research was interesting, and it actually surprised people at least a little bit, because two of the factors that they really didn't expect are the ones that emerged at the top. When it comes to the question of this large group of people, what reduced their chances of dying the most? Like what factor or factors had the most impact on these folks living longer? Um, you have a guess? Like what would be the biggest factors? What do you think? Um, Treating high blood pressure? Would that be the grand? No, no. By the way, if you have high blood pressure, I think you probably need to have it treated. But what I'm saying is, in this research, that wasn't the biggest factor. How about this one? Weight, right? Whether you're slim and trim or whether you're overweight, would that be the biggest? Nope. No, not. It's a factor, but it wasn't the biggest factor. Um, Smoking and drinking. Now there you would think that would be a huge that wasn't the biggest factor either. Again, it's on the list, but it wasn't the biggest factor in determining whether a person lives a long life or not. There were two factors that emerged at the top of the list. They were by far the two most important factors when it comes to living a long life, and they have to do with a person's social life. Yeah. Not diet and exercise, social life, really. So there were these two factors that were at the top. One of those factors is having close friendships, close relationships. Like the kind of friendships, like the kind of relationship that this is somebody you could call in the middle of the night if you were having trouble. The kind of friend who would come and be with you if you were dealing with a big crisis. That kind of friendship. Having friends, a group of friends, doesn't have to be a big group, but having a group of friends like that is a strong predictor of living a long life. And then the other fact, there were two at the top. The other one is kind of similar because it has to do with social matters as well. The second factor is something that they called social integration. Social integration. And Susan said social integration means how much you interact with people as you go through your day. Like just in your typical day, how much do you interact not just with the close friends, yes them, but also how much do you interact with just the regular casual folks that you see, the clerk at the grocery store, the clerk where you buy your coffee. Do you interact with that person? Somebody that you see in your neighborhood every day. Do you have a little interaction with that? That, believe it or not, those kinds of interactions on a regular basis turned out to be in this research a strong predictor of living a long life. Those two were having close friendships, and again, what they call social integration. Those were by far, the two most significant factors when it comes to living a long life. In other words, people and relationships. I know. No, 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 no. I know. I get it. I know. People can be challenging. Oh, I know. But I'm a pastor of a church. I know. Believe me. In fact, I'll even grant you this one. I'll grant you this one. People can be a real pain sometimes, right? I know. People say to me all the time, Dan, you're a real pain. I get it. I know. Believe me. But here's the point. Even if that's true, and we'll grant that, God did not create us to live in isolation. He created us to connect. Put it this way, God created us to know and to be known. He created us to love and to be loved. We were made for that. And so a great question would be, do you have these kinds of connections in your life? Is that part of your life? These two social components were the biggest factors for people who live long, healthy lives. It's something to think about, something important.